Some fates are forged in shadows. Clara stood shivering in a damp cell, pressed against the cold stone walls. The scent of moss clung to the air, mingling with the stench of despair. Outside, sunlight spilled across the vibrant town, lighting the smiles of prosperous townsfolk. They went about their lives, ignoring her cries, her pleas for justice. She was not a criminal, just a servant girl, poor and voiceless. But they couldn't see her. They only saw her status. A lifeless piece of the world, she felt trapped. The executioner waited, a cold promise of her fate, lurking until the day of reckoning arrived. This noble's decree had turned her life into a nightmare. They would be coming for her. The echo of her family's downfall haunted her, a relentless specter. They had once been respected, a family of strong will and resolve. Now, reduced to nothing. Clara remembered her father's voice, fierce and protective, the way her brothers laughed and played. Now, all silenced. Her parents had stood up against tyranny, crying out for justice. They'd paid for their bravery, their execution marking the end of something beautiful. That moving act sparked a fire within Clara, one burning with anger, regret, and a relentless desire for revenge. She felt abandoned, alone. Injustice curled in the pit of her stomach, a dark and heavy thing that refused to fade. She gritted her teeth. It was this fire that had led her to confront the one who took everything from her. In this dank cell, as her heartbeat echoed against the stone, she started to feel something else. At first, it was a fleeting sensation, but as the days faded into nights, a flicker of understanding blossomed within her. Clara discovered the vibrational wisdom of life surrounding her. During the rare quiet moments, she felt it. The pulse of nature, the whispers of the wind, like a soft embrace whispering, "You're not alone." The scent of rain drifted through her barred window, stirring something deep inside. Wouldn't a world exist beyond these walls? As a child, she had danced in the rain, the droplets tapping a symphony against her skin. Those days felt like distant memories now, lost in a haze of sorrow and pain. Her fear twisted deep, but the heartbeat of nature pushed back. This power within her tugged, aching to be unleashed. But how? Then, amidst the shadows of her cell, he appeared, the royal guard, tall, imposing, with a presence that demanded attention. Jasper. Known for his cold demeanor, he was the very embodiment of the law she loathed. Yet, as he approached, she sensed something different. An ember flickered within his piercing gaze, an ember that mirrored the flame inside her. Would he be the key? "Clara," he began, voice steady yet surprisingly gentle. "I'm here to take you to the council." His firm tone spoke of duty, but a deeper conflict simmered beneath. Clara's breath caught. Was this man, surrounded by authority, capable of understanding her suffering? Could he help her? As he just stood there, she felt herself breathe faster, heart racing. The very ground beneath her stirred with anticipation. Could this be a chance? Perhaps fate had not entirely abandoned her. His eyes flickered, revealing a soul similarly crushed by the noble's power. They exchanged painful truths, laden with the weight of their pasts. Each word widened the gap between despair and possibility. In the darkness of her cell, walls closing in, she saw a flicker of hope ignite between them. Was it foolish to believe? But the thought took root. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. Shadows closed in as she whispered, "What happens next?" And for the first time, she felt the world shift. Clara had been just a child when the noble's reign of terror began. It swept through the village like a storm, crushing hope, stealing freedom. Once, her family thrived. A vibrant household filled with warmth and laughter. Her father, a proud craftsman skilled in his trade, and her mother, the village healer, nurturing everyone's wounds. Life had purpose. Joy was abundant. But all that crumbled when the new laws came. Her memory twisted at the thought of that day. The sun had gleamed, bright and cruel, as Clara watched from the shadows. Her parents had gathered the townsfolk, their voices ringing with strength. "We have the right to voice our dissent," they cried. But the noble's soldiers arrived, a wall of terror, encased in iron, hearts cold as stone. Clara had watched, helpless, as cavaliers dragged her father away, her mother fighting, nails scratching the polished armor. desperate to hold on to everything. The cries echoed, haunting. That day, she lost everything. Death had carved its mark, taking her family's legacy. With it, the hollow ache of loss began to swell, giving rise to insatiable fear and anger. Her brothers' faces faded in her mind, their laughter replaced by the booming authority of the wealthy who now ruled with impunity. Clara was left behind, feeling forgotten in the expansive chaos, alone in a world that seemed determined to crush her spirit. Time moved sluggishly in that cell, hours bleeding into days, as the memories tormented her. From a little girl filled with hope to a servant girl marked for execution, but then the fire within her began to burn brighter. It awakened with every visit from Jasper, who carried a burden not dissimilar to hers. He had watched lives unravel too, yet bound by honor and a corrupt kingdom, an unwilling pawn in a cruel game. "Jasper," she whispered during one encounter, building the courage with every lingering second. "How did you end up here?" He hesitated, gaze shifting to the floor. "I grew up in these lands, just as you did. My family faced hardship too, but we tried to survive by staying quiet." He met her eyes then, fierce determination thick in the air. "I'm tired of surviving. I want more." Her heart raced at the fierce anger in his tone. They were two souls trapped in a dark web woven by greed. "We can do something about it," she responded, feeling defiance bloom. "Together. Together," he echoed, the weight of their shared pain sparking a connection. Clara spent hours dreaming up plans while hidden behind those stone walls. She began to harness that inner strength, that power of nature. She realized she could hear the faint pulse of the earth vibrating beneath her feet. Life surged with every measured breath, igniting visions of what could be: a rebirth, a revolution. Days morphed into weeks as Clara and Jasper forged a bond built on whispered dreams and shared scars. He spoke of the beauty that surrounded them, how the trees swayed as if alive, how the wind had a story to tell. She could see it and felt it stirred deep within her. "Nature has always defended those who need it," he had said one night, the flicker of hope warming the chill in her bones. Clara became his eyes to the beauty he had long forgotten, the wildflowers blooming in defiance, the skies changing colors as the sun set in glory. "Look," she'd whisper, the magic of light igniting their conversations. "Maybe they don't know the power of what they oppress. Maybe we can awaken it." Jasper's laughter rang like music, filling the gloom with light. "You're right. It's as if the earth wants us to push back." She clung to his words, her soul igniting further. With each exchange, their hearts intertwined, a delicate tapestry woven in hopes of defiance. Love, dangerous and intoxicating, burgeoned within Clara. But they both understood the peril that surrounded them, the darkness creeping ever closer as the day of her execution neared. And then, one fateful evening, the air crackled with anticipation, drawing Clara further into the depths of her spirit. She felt the call of wild magic, raw and unrefined. Surrendering to it, Clara embraced the connection she'd hidden deep within herself. As dawn crept unwillingly toward them, a plan began to form. With Jasper beside her, they would lure the noble's guards into a trap. They had to disrupt the order that hung heavy over their homes, igniting the spirits of the oppressed, the people who had lived in silence for too long. "Tomorrow we make our stand," Clara vowed, determination brimming. Jasper nodded, a silent pact between them. Together they would upend fate itself, but as she closed her eyes that night, sleep eluded her. What would happen in the morning? Would they succeed? Would it all end in chaos? Doubts lingered, but her heart surged, pushing them aside. Tomorrow the world would know her name. Now, let's move on to Block 3 to explore the collision and recognition of their bond. The dawn broke with a shiver of uncertainty. Clara's heart hammered as sunlight spilled through the small bars, firelight casting flickering shadows across the stone walls. Today was not just any day. It was the day everything changed. Her breath caught in her throat as she recalled their whispered plans. They had made vows of resistance here, in the darkness of her cell. Would they hold those vows now in this fragile morning light? As Clara gathered her courage, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridor. It was Jasper, his silhouette stark against the glow of the dawn. He stepped closer, eyes filled with determination and trepidation, as if he shared her heartbeat. "Are you ready?" he asked, a slight tremor in his voice betraying the calm facade. "Ready," she affirmed, though doubt knotted her stomach. She had never felt so alive, yet so terrified. The plan crackled with urgency, and she could feel the pulse of life, of nature, calling for them to act. As they approached the heavy wooden door, anticipation built, a tangible tension that hummed in the air around them. Clara's fingers brushed the door, and she sensed the energy flowing through the wood, intertwining with her own heartbeat. She closed her eyes and focused, drawing on the wild magic that surged within her, the very magic that had whispered for her to rise. With a firm push, Jasper opened the door, and they stepped out into the sunlight, where danger loomed larger than life. They walked side by side, two warriors prepared to ignite a revolution, each step weaving their destinies closer. In the courtyard, the atmosphere pulsed with energy. Townsfolk milled about, unaware of the impending confrontation. Clara's throat tightened. They had suffered in silence for far too long. She glanced at Jasper, who nodded, the shared understanding between them palpable. This moment was theirs to seize. Jasper positioned himself to create a distraction, his demeanor shifting to that of the authoritative guard. Clara retreated slightly, her heart pounding in her ears. She could sense the guards stationed nearby, hawkish and ready. "Sir," Jasper called sharply, commanding attention, "we have reports of discontent among the townsfolk. Send a troop to investigate." A few guards shifted with cautious curiosity, a mixture of skepticism and readiness flashing across their faces. Jasper's command echoed with authority, confidence inspiring trust. Clara felt a rush of energy, but the noble's men didn't move as expected. A few exchanged glances, and one stepped forward. "We don't need more men. It's just a servant girl," he sneered, nodding toward Clara. "What's she going to do?" In that moment, the world around Clara slowed. Their dismissal stung, igniting something fierce within her. She could feel the magic thrumming in her veins, and she took a step forward, heart pulsing. "I am not just a servant," she shouted, her voice firm, resonating with power. "Today, I stand for every voice silenced by your tyranny. The earth cradles my courage, and it will rise against you." A murmur rippled through the onlookers. She had captured their attention, and for a fleeting moment, fear shifted into something else. Daring hope. Jasper's gaze remained steady as he stood at her side, unwavering. "She speaks the truth," he continued, pride swelling in his chest. "We can no longer ignore the pain we've felt. Today, we fight back." The guards exchanged incredulous glances, faltering. Clara felt the weight of their disbelief, but pushed through, energy coursing through her every word. "No more executions, no more silence. Together, we rise." With every utterance, Clara felt a surge of magic radiate from the earth, a blooming energy flooding the courtyard, resonating with whispers of freedom. Suddenly, the air thickened, charged with anticipation. Clara closed her eyes, letting the connection with nature blossom. She could feel the wind behind her, swirling with promise. And then it happened. A gust surged none could ignore, rattling the leaves and carrying her words into the very soul of the village. Something sparked in the crowd. Eyes brightened, a flicker of rebellion igniting in the hearts of the oppressed. They began to gather, anger transforming into solidarity, powerful whispers rising like a wave. "Clara! Clara!" they started to chant, a chorus echoing through the square, unifying them in a powerful mantra. The guards faltered, bewildered. They no longer felt invincible. Clara saw fear flicker across their faces. With determination, she turned to Jasper. "This is it. Let's bring them to their knees." The noble's men moved to quell the rebellion. Weapons drawn, they shouted commands, panicking as the crowd surged. "Back! Get back!" But Clara felt unstoppable. The world around her resonated with her magic, emboldened by each chant, each heartbeat affirming their resolve to fight what had once seemed insurmountable. "Together!" Clara shouted, joining hands with Jasper. As the two of them connected, a rush of energy pulsed between them, weaving their powers. Together, they were stronger. And in that moment, everything changed. Victory felt attainable as they charged forward, leaving behind the shadows of their past. The essence of rebellion surged through them, lighting the way forward into a future unbound. But would they overcome the power of the noble's decree? Would the tides of fate shift in their favor? The battle for their lives had only just begun. Now, let's move on to Block 4, where we will delve into the development of their bond and vulnerabilities. Adrenaline flooded Clara's veins as she stood shoulder to shoulder with Jasper, the crowd swelling around them, chanting in unison. Every voice raised in defiance became a powerful current that surged through her. The air crackled, vibrant with anticipation as bodies moved closer, eyes filled with a reiterating determination. This was it. No more silence, no more oppression. "Clara!" people cried, a swelling wave of spirit rising in her. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt this alive, this connected to those around her. The winds still swirled, drawing their energy as if nature itself rallied against injustice. "Rally the people!" she shouted, feeling emboldened as Jasper nodded firmly at her side. "Let's show them our strength." They moved together through the crowd, weaving and clashing against the confusion and resolve. Clara smiled at faces filled with renewed hope. They returned her gaze with fierce determination. This was not just her fight, it was theirs. But the noble's men stood their ground. A ringside of guards circled the courtyard, weapons glinting, their resolve of iron. "You think you can challenge the edicts of our lord?" One spat, arrogance dripping from each word. Clara's heart pounded. The noble men wouldn't yield easily. The space surged with tension, but Clara felt the magic within her, a bond pulsating between her and Jasper, unbreakable, limitless. She turned to Jasper, and in their eyes, they found the resolve to press forward. "Stay together," Clara urged, her voice a beacon above the chaos. She could feel it emanating, her connection to nature intertwining with the hope and fear from her newfound allies. Every breath she took was both grounding and liberating, anchoring her amid the storm. This was no longer just about her survival. It was about igniting a revolution that would change everything. As she looked into the crowd, her heart swelled. There was Lucian, a former blacksmith, who had lost his entire family to the noble's relentless greed. Beside him, Maris, the healer, who had witnessed too many horrors and had nearly given up. Yet here they were, faces transformed into fierce masks of courage. "Form ranks!" Jasper bellowed, steering people into organized lines, hearts synchronizing with shared purpose. "We can do this. We take back what is ours." The guards stepped forward, weapons drawn. Chaos spun, and fear wove through the crowd. For a moment, Clara faltered, uncertainty gnawing at her resolve, a quiver of doubt. Could they actually face the wrath of the noble? Then she felt it, the undeniable bond between her and Jasper, an anchor amid the chaos. They exchanged glances, fear turning into a steely determination. There, in the sacred moment, she recognized something deeper, not just their shared struggle, but something that tethered them both. "Jasper?" she asked, breathless. "What if we fail?" His eyes softened, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his guard. "We can't afford to think that way. We have to believe. Besides, whatever happens, we face it together." A warmth engulfed Clara as she stepped closer, her fingers brushing his. The world around them faded, blurring into the backdrop of their indomitable fate. Heart racing, she could feel the sensibilities of power flowing between them. "I know that now," she replied, conviction blooming in her heart. "Together, we can shape a different future." Suddenly, the reverberations of the crowd broke through the hushed silence. The guards surged, lunging toward them, swords gleaming as they raised their weapons. "Back! Now!" Jasper's voice rang out, cutting through the air like a blade. But the soldiers were overwhelmed by panic, their fear igniting the flames of chaos. Clara felt the magic surge within her, awakening swiftly, begging to be unleashed. Drawing what felt like the very essence of the earth, she shouted, initiated by instinct, "By the spirits of the earth, I summon power in this moment." An ethereal glow emanated from her hands, roots of energy spiraling into the ground. She could feel the warmth of life thrumming beneath her, responding to her call. The crowd fell momentarily silent, enchanted as if they too felt the earth resonate with her. "Stand strong! Fight for our future!" Jasper cried out, pulling his sword, raw power brimming in his voice. The crowd galvanized at their feet, fists raised, others drawing weapons, their own magic crackling in the air. The nobles' guards hesitated as the energy flooded around them, feeling the shift of power. But Clara pressed on, calling forth a wave of momentum, thrusting her hands outward toward her comrades. "Together! Fight for everything!" The barriers of fear fell away as they surged forward, Clara leading the charge with Jasper at her side. Every step was fierce, every heartbeat synchronized. She could feel the air thrum with life, and as they collided with the guards, everything exploded. The sound of metal clashing echoed through the square. "Push back! Defend one another!" Clara shouted, hands sparking, sending light cascading from her fingertips. The energy enveloped the soldiers, catching them off guard, and the realization that they were no longer alone fueled the courage of the crowd tenfold. Together, they fought against tyranny. Through chaos, Clara glimpsed Jasper, dodging an attack but quickly recovering, each move graceful yet brutal. She could see the fear on his face, but also the fire. They were warriors now, bound by destiny, a connection woven by pain and resolve. They fought tirelessly. The crowd embodied raw determination, voices melding into one. Clara felt invigorated by their strength, invigorated by the wild magic that coursed through her, the bond between her and Jasper amplifying their every move. She realized this was not just about rebellion, but a declaration of unity, of love forged amid tribulation. Then, as if summoned by fate, something shifted in the chaos. A familiar figure emerged, Maris raising the townsfolk's spirits as she healed wounds and encouraged the frightened. Clara's heart swelled. It was the very essence of life pushing through the tumult. They were here. They were together. But would this movement be enough? Could they withstand the forces that had long oppressed them? Clara's heart raced. In that moment, she made a silent vow. They would rise. "Fight!" she roared, fierce and unwavering. "For our freedom!" Now, let's transition into Block 5, which will focus on the crisis and declaration, culminating in pivotal moments for Clara and Jasper. The battle raged, chaos twisting the courtyard into a storm of defiance. Clara felt every fiber of her being igniting as she fought beside Jasper, the air thick with energy and determination. Each clash of metal, each shout from the villagers, reminded her why they had come together. They weren't just rebels. They were a rebellion, a movement fueled by the desire for a better future. "Push back! Defend one another!" Clara shouted, her hands sparking with magical energy. Light cascaded from her fingertips, enveloping the soldiers with a warmth that caught them off guard. In that moment, the fear that had held the crowd captive transformed into courage, a raw power igniting the hearts around her, urging them to stand firm. "Together!" Jasper's voice rang through the tumult, rallying the villagers, his presence a beacon of hope. Clara's gaze met his, and for a heartbeat, the chaos receded, leaving only the two of them, united in purpose. They fought fiercely. Clara moved with fluid grace, dodging attacks, her magic bursting forth with each determined strike against the guards. She felt the bond with Jasper grow stronger, their energies intertwining like vine and root, grounding her even when doubt threatened to creep in. In the midst of the tumult, Clara caught sight of Maris weaving through the throng, rejuvenating the wounded with healing magic and rallying those who hesitated. Clara's heart lightened, seeing Maris work tirelessly to bolster their ranks. "You've got this," Clara encouraged, her voice piercing through the din, a thread of hope in the sea of chaos that surrounded them. But then a dark figure emerged from the fray, the captain of the guards, his eyes cold, glinting with menace. "Get the girl!" he bellowed, fury echoing in his voice. A wave of tension rippled through the crowd as fear flickered in their eyes. "Clara, step back!" Jasper shouted, positioning himself between her and the advancing threat, his jaw set, a fierce protector. "I won't let him near you." Instinctively, Clara reached for her magic, feeling the intensity of the earth beneath her. "We can't let him take me. We can't lose this fight." She stepped forward, her heart racing, determination surging. Trust me, Jasper retorted, eyes locked on the captain, the tension thickening the air. Clara knew he was right. He was their strongest line of defense, but something deep in her heart ached at the idea of seeing him get hurt. The captain charged forward, a bear of a man, intent on breaking their spirits with his swaggering confidence. Clara steeled herself, her heart pounding as she conjured the energy within her. "By the spirits of this land, I wield the strength we've summoned," she shouted, thrusting her hands outward. As she summoned the magic, roots exploded from the ground, latching onto the captain, wrapping him in an inescapable grip. Clara could feel the power thrumming through her, a wild surge of energy taking form, channeling her anger at oppression into something tangible. "Your magic is pathetic," he spat, struggling against the tendrils tightening around him. Clara's heart raced as she pushed harder, channeling every ounce of her will into the energy binding him. "Now," Jasper commanded, rallying to her side, his sword glimmering as he prepared to strike. "Take him down!" With a fierce roar, Clara poured everything into her spell, feeling the earth resonate with her intentions. "We are united!" she cried, the magic surging forth. The tendrils tightened, constricting the captain further, his face twisted in a mixture of shock and rage. But even as the tide seemed to shift, the guards rallied. The captain's voice boomed again, laced with desperation. "Reinforcements! Hold your ground!" His followers hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes as they reevaluated their situation. But the captain's stubbornness sparked a flicker of panic. "Clara, now!" Jasper urged, stepping forward. The crowd surged behind him, fierce and unwavering. Clara felt the energy from the villagers ignite, feeding into her weaving magic. "Fight for our freedom!" she shouted, raising her voice above the clamor, the call to arms echoing in the street. "For our freedom!" the villagers roared back, a wave of fervor sweeping through the ranks. The energy that Clara had summoned lifted them, coiling around their spirits, empowering them. As they flooded toward the guards, Clara sensed the tide shifting. Victory felt near, but her heart fluttered with anxiety. Would this be enough? Their energy was palpable, yet the nobles' regime had always been ruthless. But in that moment, Clara and Jasper shared one last glance. An unspoken promise passed between them, a vow forged amid the chaos. Together, they embodied hope and change. "Rally! Now!" Clara shouted, hands extending toward the villagers, drawing their energies into a single force. With a final release, Clara thrust forward, magic bursting forth in an eruption of light and power. The courtyard lit up, dazzling those around her as roots and vines surged forward to protect them all from the threat that loomed. As the energy enveloped the guards, Clara felt exhilarated. They stood against injustice. They fought for something greater than themselves, the freedom to exist without fear. Muffled cheers rose as the captain faltered, his strength waning under the unrelenting pressure of the bond they created. Clara's heart raced with exhilaration and a flicker of doubt. Would their victory hold? "Together," Jasper's voice boomed, cutting through her reverie, bringing her back to the moment. "Together," Clara echoed, raising her hands toward the villagers. The tide was shifting, and they were no longer just fighting against oppression. They were carving a path forward. They were creating their fate, hand in hand. Just as the captain seemed to crumble, a sudden shout erupted from the backlines. Reinforcements. But Clara took it in stride. She felt the combined strength of the villagers, their resolve transmitting currents of energy that resonated with her magic. "Now!" she bellowed, and in one powerful synchronized motion, Clara and Jasper led the charge. What had once felt impossible began to blossom into a reality. Unity sowed into action. The nobles' forces began to fracture. Their fear was palpable, and as the tide turned, Clara's spirit soared. In this moment of victory, the shadows of uncertainty began to fade. "Together, we will rise," Clara shouted, a declaration of freedom ringing through the air, igniting hope in every heart that beat in unison. This was not the end, it was only the beginning, and the fight for their future had only just begun. With the battle fought, let's now transition into Block 6, focusing on the resolution, including the lasting impact of Clara and Jasper's struggles together and the new life they will forge. As the dust settled over the courtyard, a hush fell among the villagers, the adrenaline of battle still coursing through their veins. Clara stood in the midst of it all, her heart pounding, exhilaration and uncertainty mingling. They had fought bravely, but the future loomed ahead like a wide open field, unknown and daunting. "Clara!" Jasper's voice reached her, breaking the silence. He approached, his eyes bright with pride, yet shadowed with concern. "We did it. But what now?" "We celebrate, but we also prepare," Clara replied, her voice firm. She turned to the gathered crowd, their faces alight with triumph, but also glimmering with doubt. Clara raised her arms, commanding their attention. "This victory is just the beginning. We must stand united if we want to keep our freedom." A wave of agreement swept through the crowd, hearts lifting as they realized what they had accomplished. But amidst the cheers, Clara sensed the anxiety lurking. She took a deep breath, rallying her courage. "We have defeated them today, but they will retaliate. We need to be ready." With newfound resolve, the villagers began to plan. They formed committees, crafted defenses, and shared stories of hope. Clara and Jasper spearheaded the effort, their partnership a powerful force. Together, they envisioned a thriving community built on unity, strength, and resilience. Days turned into weeks as the village transformed. They trained against potential threats. Clara's magic strengthened the ground beneath their feet, weaving protection into their very home. Maris became a pillar of support, healing the wounds not just of the body, but of the spirit as well. "We're building something beautiful here," Jasper said one evening, their hands entwined as they watched the sunset over their new home. Clara felt warmth spread through her heart, recognizing the journey they had embraced together. But deep in her mind, doubt crept in. "Do you think they will come back for us?" she asked, uncertainty lacing her words. Jasper's grip tightened. "They might, but we are not the same. We are stronger now, together." The atmosphere shifted, a playful energy buzzing in the air. Clara sensed the villagers growing closer, an open channel of communication. They laughed, shared meals, and found strength in one another's presence. The old fears began to dissolve amid the connection they built. One night, as Clara stood atop the new watchtower alongside Jasper, the stars twinkled above them, a tapestry of endless possibilities. "Can you believe we are here?" Clara whispered, awe filling her voice. "I can," Jasper replied, his gaze locked on hers. "This is our home now. It feels right." Hope blossomed in her heart. "We've fought so hard, but I want to ensure that this never becomes a nightmare again." "We will make sure," he promised, his eyes fierce, determination shimmering within. Together. As Clara gazed out across the village, a place once steeped in fear and oppression, she could now see light filling the streets, laughter bubbling up in the square. They had transformed their home, and with each passing day, the sense of community grew richer and more vibrant. Yet Clara knew their work wouldn't end with the establishment of a council. They needed to sow the seeds of stability, security, and strength. In the months that followed, as blossoms of spring graced the village, Clara stood at the forefront, united with those she fought alongside. They discussed their visions for the future, dreams woven into the very fabric of their community. Jasper and Clara exchanged glances, a silent camaraderie that had deepened through battle. "This is just the start," Clara said one afternoon, addressing the villagers gathered in the square. "Together, not only can we defend our home, but we can thrive. Together, we'll create a legacy." The villagers erupted into cheers, their voices melding into a harmonious chorus. As she looked into the crowd, familiar faces, united hearts, Clara realized they had become more than a village. They were a family. Her heart swelled in that moment, knowing that they were on a journey together, one filled with hope and promise. Together, they would forge their future and defend it with everything they had. They would cultivate the seeds of change, crafting a beautiful tapestry of resilience, love, and unity. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon, igniting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Clara whispered to Jasper, "This is our time, our new beginning, always," he replied, leaning in closer, the warmth of his presence igniting her spirit further. Hand in hand, they face the unknown horizon, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, together. If you enjoyed the journey of Clara and Jasper, the fight for freedom, subscribe for more tales of courage and unity. Remember, together we can build a future. Thank you for listening.